Okay, so he's like, oh, where was I? And his friends are just like, I don't know, I didn't see you. And so he decides, well, I'm going to try and go do it again. And then there's more little drama of like the psychologist that's at school asking him weird questions, like, did your dad ever tell you anything about what he worked on, or da-da-da? And he's just like, dude, you're the one that always puts words in his mouth or try to put words in my mouth, and I don't feel comfortable telling you anything because you do that. So he decides to go to another party with his friends, and he's like, alright, I'm going to try this again and see if the same thing happens. And it does, and he gets a little, and then, so, meanwhile, pizza delivery boy, alien guy, he's on his planet, and he's like, goes to their version of, like, the police, but in their society, they're like weeding out bad people. They're strictly defensive. Like, don't get me wrong, they love fighting, but they love fighting to be strong and to be able to protect themselves. So it's kind of like, you poke me, I fucking crush you, like, period, because we know that you'll go farther if you're willing. Like, there's a point, if you're willing to harm them, then they are going to exterminate you. Like, no chance of your survival. They'll pick out your little good people because it's easy to tell, and then they'll fucking crush you. And because they know they have, the only thing they don't have is perpetual energy, so they're real, not that I would say strict, but just that everyone is cautious about how they use their energy, because it's for the betterment of everyone. They're all kind of just like, well, it would be pretty dumb for me to be selfish, because then if we do run out, everyone would be suffering. Pretty easy concept. So he goes up to their version of the police, but it's like, basically like, I don't know, peace officers? What our peace officers should be? Like, a medic, a fireman, and a policeman all in the same, so that it's just identify problem, solve problem, you're done. Not, oh, the police showed up, but it's a fire. It's everybody, they showed up. Doesn't matter what kind of, the vehicle has the nice response system you want it to have. So they go, and this time, because the alien was telling the peace officers that about that, they came up to him like, oh, you're retarded, no, you're just a simple pizza delivery boy, you couldn't possibly have made a discovery that important. But their little 7 galaxy secret council people were watching, and these are the people that are trying to find the like one bad guy that there's left in their civilization. And so Justin, back on Earth, decides to go and trip again. So in the same kind of thing, the other kid is like waiting for him to get there, so they do it at the same time, not realizing that's what they're doing to communicate. And so he gets there, and he's like, alright, I did my studying, like, perfectly draws out the Milky Way galaxy, which is basically an address. Goes even farther to just like identify some around, so it's like, hey, we're here, we think we're in this part of it. I'm gonna get a visual signal for you to be able to see what's going on, and if we're real or not, come find me, say what's up, give me a high five. Be careful because of germs. So while they're doing that, the little secret alien council decides that they're gonna straight up, show them that this is something real going on, at least to the alien, and they teleport them to their little spaceship or whatever, which is cool. And so there's the 7 heads of people sitting there, and then there's the alien and the human. And the human at this point is realizing that he's not crazy. He's not technically astro projecting, but just more capable of his abilities. And so he's like straight up, not, I wouldn't say mind reading, but emotion reading. And he can tell immediately who the bad guy in the room is. And so they start discussing, we want to be very careful about this. People freak out. It could cause a huge war. And the human basically walks up and he's like, dude, only fear would cause a war. The only person that would be fearful is, someone who's fearful of themselves. And so he's walking real close to the table, and he reaches really quick, not aggressively, but quickly towards one of the aliens, and that guy pulls out his little plasma cutter and shoots him, and he just disperses into like a mist and then comes back together, and he just kind of laughs because all the other aliens are like, oh, holy shit, you just pointed out the bad guy for us. Like, none of us would have reached our weapons because you clearly just told us that you're not aggressive, and it shows that he was just trying to get rid of him, and then he didn't, so it's like, oh, you fucked up. And so they're like, alright, now that kid is basically on a higher council seat kind of thing. Not that it's a council seat, but it's just that kid himself found a better mission, so they're going to let him lead his mission. They're not going to take his stuff over for him because it's his. He found it out. And so they're like, all right, let's see your research. And then they're like, oh yeah, signal at this time when your galaxy's spinning, which is basically like, go home and find this shit and send the signal out. So he was done with this little contraption, and it's basically like a giant telescope. Have you ever seen the laser lights that you can shine and you see them in the day? If you ever shine one of those up at night, you can see particles and for hundreds of feet, like a straight beam of light from the air. And so he's basically going to put one of those real cheesy in a telescope, and then it'll make it wider, but it would be something big enough where if that were to shoot out in space for even a little bit of time, it would be clearly visible as a reaction, a place to know, hey, they came from here. So he gets out and he rushes over to his friends. He's like, I need to go home. Gets a ride all the way to his buddy's house, and then he has to run to his house, which is like a little bit down a little town, kind of a smaller town. And it's not like a giant city, but it's not like a one-horse town. And he like runs across this creek, and he sees his house, and he's like, oh fuck, the psychologist is there talking to my mom. And so he comes in all calmly, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna put this up and make something to eat, and then I'll come in and talk to you. And the psychologist like wanting to just stay in his sight, but the mom's like, he doesn't want to alarm the mom because he's trying to get her to sign some paper saying your son went crazy. And so instead of going, he kind of rummages through the sink and then just heads straight out back. And the psychologist goes and shows the mom, like, why isn't he actually eating something? He said he was going to eat something, but instead he's out back foiling with some contraption that doesn't make sense, that's not going to do anything. So the psychologist kind of gets a little edge on the mom, and she's like, oh, maybe he did go crazy. And almost 10 minutes at a time. So we'll do it right there.